Tonight. If we can give it you do have quorum, but if we can give it 1 or 2 more minutes to see if the rest trickle in. I do have 7:02, and we do have quorum, Hillary. Hopefully Cy and Patrick, is Patrick now, so hopefully Cy can join us any minute now. But I think if you want to call to order, you're more than welcome to, and then I can just give a brief introduction on the meeting standards.
Okay, so it being 7:02 on January 6th, 2022, this meeting of the Town of Reading Zoning Board of Appeals is called to order.
Great, thank you, Hillary. So I'm Andrew McNichol, staff planner. Thank you all for joining us tonight. This, as Hillary mentioned, is the ZBA meeting of January 6th, our first of 2022. From the board here, we have Alex Normandin with me, and over Zoom, Chairwoman Hillary Mateve, Cindy Hartman, Andrew Grassberger, Brian Bork, Patrick Houghton, and did I forget anybody? We have a few new members, I believe. Oh, and staff Brett Bennett, the building commissioner, is with us as well over Zoom. So for those of us who don't know, the standard meeting procedure is that typically the applicant will give a presentation to the board. The board will then ask questions and comments between themselves and the development team, and then the chair will open it up to public comment. If you are on Zoom and you do wish to speak, we ask that you please use the raise hand button found in the reactions or under participants. And if you are in person, when ready to speak and acknowledge, please just stand here in the center so that the camera and mic can capture you clearly. And then for everybody, when you're first speaking, please just state your name and address for the public record. So that should just about do it from me. If everything seems to be running well, Hillary, I will pass it off to you.
Okay, so on our agenda is case number 2117 of 470 Main Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a continuation of a public hearing in the Select Board's meeting room at the Reading Town Hall at 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Massachusetts on Thursday, January 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. on the application of Barlow Signs pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, subsection 10, for a variance under the Reading Zoning Bylaws Section 4.5.2, 7.4, and 8.5.3, as may be determined by the Zoning Board, to install 2 additional wall signs where one is permitted and existing on the property located at 470 Main Street, Assessors Map 17, Lot 34 in Reading, Massachusetts. Okay. So the applicant and present.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Brandon Courier from Barlow Signs. I'm in Merrimack, New Hampshire currently. Alright, so I'm here this evening representing 470 Main Street. This is a very unique location with access from multiple different streets. We are seeking, as mentioned before, approval for 2 additional wall signs to help aid the wayfinding public. Since the last meeting, in good faith, we reduced both signs down in their size quite a bit. So the first sign here is item C. It's been strategically placed on the corner of the building to capture the traffic coming from Green Street. When approaching the property, it's very clear it's a public safety issue. There's an immediate sharp right-hand turn, which could cause car accidents, fender benders, and so forth. Having this sign would give motorists enough time to safely brake and enter the property. And if we slide down to the next page, which is the second sign, which is item F. This sign is located on Ash Street, so the second road that this building is visible by. This is the only identification the bank has from this side, especially having a drive-through entrance there. With respect to the residential neighbors on this side, one with a non-illuminated sign. So this sign will be replacing a similar sign that was currently there from the previous bank. So again, as I mentioned, this property is very unique in the sense that it has access from multiple points of road with multiple entrances for customers to access services provided. For example, there are two roads, two access points. The building needs to be identified with signage for that. So you have Ash Street and then Main Street as you're coming down towards Green Street. With these newest bylaws, this property is no longer able to identify off both streets because it's not a multi-tenant property. This describes hardship as people are unable to successfully navigate the property from both access points. Having no signage on the side and rear elevations would be detrimental to the success of the bank. Unhappy customers will go out of their way to go to another branch location if there are any, tough times to get into the property, or if there's confusion on the property and whatnot, to try to avoid that, because as we know, everybody is always on a tight time schedule and a rush. So these signs were previously designed to scale. As mentioned above, we reduced the overall the overall square footage in good faith. There'll be no negative effect on the city nor any residents or guests traveling past the building or traveling to it. And again, it can be seen from multiple access points. The ordinance does not speak specifically to a property like this one, so in this case, it won't derogate from the intent of the ordinance. So in conclusion, over the years, this site has had 3, 4, 5 signs on it at any given time. The signs have been harmonious and have not caused any negative input towards them. So again, we reduced the size of the signs to better fit within the area so they are not out of scale. And then we wanted to respect the new bylaws, but still being able to provide proper signage for our customer, for Metro Credit Union to identify and work to be successful at this location. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you for hearing us this evening.
So let's clarify, because we need to clarify who's going to be voting on this case. If we do have a full board tonight. Let's see who we had last time. So if my notes are correct, this would be Andrew Grassberger, Cindy Hartman, myself, Ryan Bork, and Cy. I'm going to try your last name, but I'm not good. Colette. So
Close enough.
Okay.
Hillary, if I could just chime in there. So Alex did provide the Mullen rule form. He watched the video from the last meeting, submitted that, and that's been posted with the clerk. So he is eligible to vote. So I guess I would stick to your standard 5 regular members to vote.
Okay. So, since Alex has filled out these, Andrew Grassberger will be a non-voting member for this decision.
Alright.
Do we have any comments from the board? Any questions?
Well, I could start.
Okay. Thank you, Sai.
Yes, we continued this thing because we wanted Andrew to do some background investigating on what's transpired on this property over the past few years, and I thank him for digging all that information up. It goes all the way back on this property to a little over 20 years, almost 20 years ago. And but having read it all, it didn't help me a great deal in terms of trying to find my way to a resolution here. There's two paragraphs that are involved here. One of them is section 853. And if you literally want to read that section, it doesn't apply here because it applies to a lot or a property that has two businesses on it. This is not the case here. If you look at 8.6 clearly says that you could have, at least the way I interpret it, clearly says you could have two facade wall-mounted signs, projecting one and even a freestanding one. So there's some interpretation when it comes to signage on something like this that you got to kind of try to figure out what the founding fathers were thinking about here. But having said that, either way, a variance would be required. Whether you're looking at thinking about 853 being applicable or 8.6 being applicable. So there is a variance required. And then I sat here and started to try to figure out whether there's a rational solution to this situation without a variance. And it's very hard to do that. One of the things I thought about was that if let's say that the builder wanted to perhaps, instead of having the projecting sign out front, take that away and then coming up with a second facade sign, just it being on a different facade, 2 instead of 3 would force the applicant to decide whether you put or where to put the second one. Because I'm trying to avoid, is there any way of avoiding a variance? Because a variance, as I said in that first meeting, is very, very hard to come by. Those criteria are strict, and they are, if you want to claim any one of those, it has to be substantially, for example, substantial hardship to the applicant to be able to grant that variance. And I'm looking at this thing tonight as I looked at it before, and I don't see that I'm not hearing that it is a substantial hardship. So it hasn't changed my view in terms of how I vote. It's just that I hate to see this applicant without a way to get to a satisfactory solution. How might he change it to do that? So I'm wrestling with that one, and I would engage and love to see a conversation about how that might happen. But nothing has been dug up since the last meeting in terms of material that has altered the fact that I do not see a substantial hardship here. Okay? That's all I got to say at the moment.
Thank you.
I'll go. So as Andrew said, I did review the video from a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that I did ask for clarification for was, you read the bylaws and it states that any signs on the businesses need a permit from CPDC, and just want to clarify that was given for this applicant.
Correct. They got the wall sign for entering Main Street, and a projecting blade sign was issued by the CPDC.
Okay. And, you know, one of the things is that, you know, further on in that paragraph, it's, it kind of seems that any appeals as regards to signs and CPDC need to go through Board of Selectmen. So I think that's, to Sai's point, you know, if it's a variance or not, I think he raised a good question, is up for a debate. But that aside, looking at table 8.6, you know, my interpretation in there is businesses in the B zoning districts are allowed 2 wall-mounted per business and 1 blade per business. So the existing signs now, there is 1 blade there, so that's satisfied. There's 1 wall-mounted on the front, which to me means that they're allowed only 1 more. The applicant's proposing 2. So, you know, that being said, I can see a hardship for the sign on the back. I guess that would be the western side, not being able to identify the business from that side. However, given that there's 1 on the front, you know, I think, you know, you can see it as you approach the bank. As far as the safety concerns, you know, I'd ask, you know, is there any evidence of accidents there? Do we have police reports of accidents as a result of that? And a question specifically for Brandon, you know, you mentioned there's, I think you said up to 5 existing signs in the past, and I would ask, were any on this north facing side as you are proposing?
Can I jump in and answer that?
Yep, please.
So there was a sign on that north-facing sign as you're approaching the building. There is a current junction box there for electrical. I'm not sure when in the past it was there, but there's definitely evidence of a sign being there with repairs and so forth.
All right. Yeah, and I guess to that point, you know, the 2017, the package that Andrew was able to dig up for us showed a proposed sign in that location. However, you know, I think just looking at kind of street view online, I don't know if that ever got installed. And if anyone has seen otherwise, please let me know. But I guess as I sit right now, you know, the sign on the back, I certainly can see that as being needed, but that north-facing sign, as I sit right now, I don't see the substantial hardship with that. Thank you.
I'll go, Hillary.
Okay, great.
I actually agree with that the sign in the back is necessary. I had commented during the last meeting that I agreed, because I had issues myself with coming up on that driveway kind of at the last second without knowing it was coming, and therefore I agreed that the sign on the side was also needed. However, I've driven by there since then, and I don't know if it was, maybe the last time I looked you didn't have the blade sign up yet, but now with the blade sign, you don't need, you know, you see the blade sign very, very clearly from the side as you're approaching from either the north or the south. I don't think an additional sign on the side of the north side of the building would really have that much of an additional impact, considering that I do think that you can clearly see it coming from either side on Washington Street without an extra sign on the north side. So I would not agree that a hardship is necessary, is existing to make the sign there necessary. I do agree that there needs to be a sign on the drive-through side, or somewhere on the back for people approaching from that side, because otherwise there is nothing identifying the building. But, so, those are my thoughts.
Just checking my notes here. Ryan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you. I did review the information, and I think kind of being a newer board member, I was trying to familiarize myself with the bylaws, and I certainly value Cy and other team members' experience. And it is very strict with the criteria for variance, and it seems like the only changes here as compared to last time we reviewed it is just the size of the sign. So I'd have to agree with the previous statements of the board members that it doesn't appear to clearly meet the criteria required for a variance.
So, I'm gonna make a couple comments. So, in light of what Alex mentioned and with what Cy mentioned, so if we look at section 8.5.3, it talks about all permanent signs in business B zoning district require certificate of appropriateness. Refer to table 8.6 for additional regulations regarding signs in business B zoning districts. So then I go to 8.6, and what Alex says is correct. If you look at the table, you are allowed 2 wall-mounted signs per business, and you're allowed 1 projecting blade sign per business. But if you look at the special regulations, in a lot or building which contains more than 1 business may be granted a certificate of appropriateness for more than 1 sign and a maximum of the following signs. So, following the table, I think, you know, you wouldn't need necessarily a variance for the front and the back signs and the blade sign, but to go for the 3rd sign, you would. Is that a correct reading?
I would agree with that, although I acknowledge it's a little bit confusing.
It's a little back and forth.
It's a little back and forth, but I think the table is clear and would be the definitive answer.
Right, and the special regulations don't apply because there's only 1 business.
Right.
I would agree with that, with both of you.
Okay, do you mind can I speak again?
Yep.
I just have a question. I just wanted to clarify. So, it sounds like the sign on the backside on Ash Street would be permissible by code with allowance of square footage, correct? So we wouldn't even need to go through that, so that can per se be withdrawn because you guys do not have to vote on that.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
Two signs are allowed. So
Okay.
if you wanted to put one on the north side, you couldn't have one on the back, and vice versa.
Okay,
Is Andrew around?
The 3rd sign.
thank you.
Valerie, is Andrew on here?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, what's your reaction to that? Because we're basically looking at 8.6 as being the governing thing here.
Yeah, you know, I think I went through this with Brett today. I think we spent 15, 20 minutes looking at this bylaw, trying to interpret it and how to read it. And I actually think that we did end up coming to the same conclusion, that because it's not a multi-tenant building, we are going to defer to table 8.6, which does allow 2 wall signs and 1 blade sign.
Can I just throw another little piece into this equation?
Yep.
If I read 8.6, it also says that you can have 1 freestanding one by special permit on a lot.
Right.
What if they were to use the 2 standing facade signs as the one in the front that's there now and put one on the side? Could they put a freestanding one in the back
So
entry?
we did also discuss that there doesn't seem to be a clear restriction on number of signs at the site nor area. And it could also be interpreted that 2 wall signs was placed there because of the multi-tenant special regulations, similar to the special permit requirements that are outlined. But yes, to answer your question, I do think that it's not clear the exact number of total signs that they could be allowed, and if they were to apply for a freestanding sign, they would just need to go by special permit from the CPDC, which are discretionary as well.
I just threw that out there. I'm just trying to thinking through the eyes of the applicant. What's the best solution that we could
Yep.
think here? Because it's obvious that a variance doesn't seem to be the path that we want to go down, because it's not going to win. So we always try to, remember in the past, we used to sit here and think about how, okay, what is the best solution here for everybody?
I appreciate that, thank you.
I mean, and there's also apparently temporary flags.
Yep. Awnings.
And that's where it gets to kind of, I mean, I agree with everything that everybody's saying about that, but as much as you read into it, it's kind of, where does it stop, I guess, not
Exactly.
something for this case, but I mean, they could have a bulletin board if they wanted. I mean, adding up all these signs, they could probably have 5 signs just in different types, you know, if you're not, just by that table is, I guess, how I would read it.
Well, there's nothing, I agree with you, but there isn't anything that limits it, so we could go by the table. Yeah.
So, how are we going to move forward with this? Andrew, we do have to open it for public comment, correct?
Yes, you would.
I
Well,
open.
I was gonna say, do you mind, excuse me, so it kind of sounded like the best case of action, just before we close it, the best case of action is to choose which sign, either the side sign or the back sign, right? And then that would eliminate the need for a variance for a third wall sign, which would be okay. And then if they did choose to go with the side sign, then there's an option to do a special permit for an additional sort of directional out back to guide in traffic from that side.
Correct. I would agree with that.
Thank you.
You see any problem with that, Andrew?
Yeah, I will probably defer to Brett on his interpretation, but no, that is the way that I would read it, that they're allowed a second wall sign by right. They can choose one of the 2, I guess, and then whatever they feel the best path forward, if that's to withdraw the variance, have a vote, or go for a special permit for a freestanding sign in the future.
Yeah, I would do the same. I mean, they would need a variance for another wall sign, not a special permit, but I mean, yeah, I guess they could withdraw and they could get one more additional wall sign by right, and then the variance for another wall sign, or if they wanted a freestanding or whatnot.
Okay, so I think the best case of action, as I mentioned, was we will choose which wall sign we would go for, and then we would not have to do any sort of variance approval for that.
Yep.
Okay, great. So does that mean that we have, what's the proper channel or function through this? Is it a withdrawal, or is it going to be a continuation to the next meeting to then have Andrew communicate back and forth with which we're going for? But I know it's all really confusing. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it properly.
I guess, you wouldn't need anything from this board for one more wall sign, so I think it would be a finding by this board that 2 wall signs are allowed by right under table 8.6.
Okay.
And then you'd be withdrawing your variance application for the third, or you could continue in case if you want to try. I mean,
Okay, I think that the first option that you mentioned there would be best that the board, so I assume the findings would be, as you said, based off of the table, that 2 wall signs are allowed, and then the variance for the third, I will withdraw that because even if we did go forward, as multiple members have mentioned, there's not per se a detailed hardship. So I think that that's probably the best method to save everybody on time.
Right, so Hillary or Andrew, do we need to have a motion or make a formal finding about our interpretation of the, what's allowed?
yes, that's what I would recommend, please, and thank you.
Okay, then I will,
If we could just open to public comment, I don't know if
Oh,
Hillary
sure.
did that yet.
And Andrew, I just noticed I forgot, I only read the legal notice, I didn't do the rest of the procedural order. Do I do that, should I do that now, or?
No, that's fine
If I
because
did
this
it
was a
when they opened
continuance.
it, do I have to redo it?
No, this was a continuance, so I think we're fine on that end.
All right, so I open to public, oh, sorry, yes.
No, do that first, and we'll get into the final comment.
I'll open to public comment on this we're on application 2117.
Yep.
Seeing none, hearing none, the public comment portion is closed. Let's see, there's a chat here. Okay. Andrew and Patrick, would you like to make any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Andrew Grasberger, you're all set? Okay. Yes, Sai.
I'm just thinking, could it be as simple as the applicant withdrawing his request for a variance, and that to be able to put another wall sign on a different facade, he could do by right? And so if he just withdrew his variance, and then at some time in the future, if he wanted to come up with or propose a freestanding sign, he could apply for a special permit. Does that work, Andrew?
That would work. I was just thinking a finding from the board would be beneficial for us to use in the future, and any other staff to use. That's the way this bylaw is gonna be interpreted. That's all I was thinking, but I'm happy with either.
That's fine.
Yeah, we can keep the
Acceptable as
paper.
well.
We can keep the paper trail clean.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial to have the finding, just that for the future.
Okay.
Cindy, did you wanna propose the findings?
sure, I'll make a motion that, to confirm the board's finding that, a business in business B zoning district such as the applicant here, has a right pursuant to section 8.6 of the zoning bylaws, specifically the table, has a right to have 2 wall-mounted signs without the need for a variance. And therefore, Metro Credit Union does not need a variance for its a total of 2 wall-mounted signs, plus the blade sign.
I'll second that.
Okay, and to be clear, it is Sai, Ryan, Alex, Cindy, and myself voting. All those in, Cindy, can you say all those in favor, Cindy?
Oh.
We have to do like a kind of a call, right?
Yeah, roll call, please, over Zoom.
I say aye.
Sai, yes.
Aye.
Ryan says yes. Alex,
Yes.
and I say yes. Motion passes 5-0-0.
And then, just for procedure, Brandon, if I'm clear, you were gonna ask to withdraw the variance application, which we would need a motion and vote on, if that's what you wish to do, Brandon.
That is correct.
So we would just need a motion to accept
Then
the applicant's
I'll
withdrawal
move
without
to accept the withdrawal from Barlow Signs of its application in case number 2117 for a variance.
I second that.
And again, Cindy, you vote yes.
Yes.
And Sai.
Yes,
So Ryan,
Yes, I'm in favor.
Alex,
Yes.
and I say yes. So the motion 5-0-0 passes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do all the research. Andrew, especially you, thank you. And I appreciate you guys all working with me to come to a greater solution. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Stay safe, everybody.
You as well.
Okay, next on our agenda is case number 2118, 31 through 33 Village Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing in the Select Board's meeting room at Reading Town Hall, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Massachusetts, and through remote and online measures below on Thursday, January 6, 2022 at 7 p.m. on the application of Michael Weaver pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, subsection 9 for a special permit under the Reading zoning bylaw, section 7.0, 7.3, and 7.3.2 to construct a second-story deck along an existing non-conforming side yard setback at the non-conforming dwelling on the non-conforming lot of the property located at 31 through 33 Village Street, Assessors Map 17, Lot 140 in Reading, Massachusetts. Unless there's an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the abutters list, except to say that the abutters were notified, as were the following: Select Board, Police Department, Building Department, Health Department, Engineering Division, Town Clerk, Fire Department, Conservation Commission, Assessor's Office, CPDC, and the members and associate members of the Board of Appeals, as well as the planning boards of Wakefield, North Reading, Woburn, Linfield, Stoneham, and Wilmington. Testimony, so all those who wish to speak on this case, please let us know. Testimony given before this board is taken under oath, so if you think you may want to speak, please stand and raise your right hand.
Yep.
Or unmute and repeat after, and raise your hand, I suppose.
So we
Sorry,
are aiming
Hillary's
for
gonna.
like.
Okay.
Yep.
So they're here. Okay, I swear that the testimony given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The response is, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
And the floor is yours.
Okay.
Yes, please present.
All right. So good evening, everybody. We are proposing to construct a second-story deck, about 10.5 feet by 7 feet. And we have an existing side yard setback of 9 feet 3 inches. Currently, that is the existing. And when we construct the deck, it would actually remain that same distance. There's no further extension to the side yard setback, so we don't feel it would create any visible problems with our neighbors, or from the street side you wouldn't be able to really notice it. I think that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I have a question. I just wanted to confirm that the new deck is going to be exactly on top and on the same footprint of the little area of the house that you have jutting out already?
Correct. On the corner, it'll be the same. It'll
Okay.
extend to our neighbors. It's a 2-family or 2 condos, and it's gonna jet out, not on the side yard, but like over the bulkhead area, that area right there, yes. And that's roughly about 2 feet up from the existing shed. And our neighbors are actually our parents or in-laws, so we've already discussed it. Yeah, the condo association is not objecting with this one.
Okay, thank you.
No.
To be clear, it's not projecting any closer to the side yard.
Correct.
And you're taking off the shed and adding a railing, is what I'm
Correct.
reading in the drawings.
Yep.
So I'm going to reiterate who's voting on this case as well while I'm still talking. So
Actually,
voting would be myself.
I'm sorry, I
Cindy.
just wanted to clarify what you actually just said. There's another drawing that might make it a little easier to see from the side. Actually, that was, yeah. So when you had mentioned changing the roof line there, the roof itself, like where the deck is extending, it's gonna come down a little bit, but the railing, only to make the railings flow into the house, if that makes any sense, to the second floor.
Okay. So you're extending your nonconformity vertically, is what?
Correct, yeah. But
From
it's not
12.
extending outside, like towards the backyard any further either. It's staying exactly over that shed roof.
Right, but you're going up by about 2 feet, it looks like. I'm trying to do the math really quick, and I'm not really quick right now at this time of day.
No problem, I'm struggling too.
15'7.5" from 12'9" is what I was.
So we're lowering the actual shed roof, I think about 1.5 feet or so.
But, so I'm gonna clarify who's voting now. So Cindy Hartman will be voting, Alex Normandin, Ryan Bork, Cy Coet, and myself will be the voting members. But Andrew and Patrick, please feel free to comment as well.
I just had a
Hi.
couple quick questions.
Sure, I'll follow.
Okay.
All right. So the deck, is that coming out of like a family room or like a bedroom?
A kitchen.
A kitchen. Okay. And it's just kind of be recreational use, or is it?
Some chairs, plants, yeah.
Yeah, driven up, especially up that end of the street. It seems like those houses are on top of each other. I think direction, I guess, to the north, like you kind of have a split driveway there between you and your neighbor. So those houses up there are extremely close together. And thank you for clarifying there's 2 condos in there. That was a question I did have. So I think, you just as Hillary mentioned, you're really only extending vertically, and if my math's correct, kind of less than 2 feet. I don't see too much of an issue with that. So.
Brett, did you have a comment?
No, sorry. No, just extending the nonconformity upward, basically, that's about it.
Thank you. Sai, did you had your hand up?
Yeah, this looks pretty straightforward to me. It's similar to the one we looked at the last meeting where they're not creating a new nonconformity at all, they're just extending an existing one, and, I don't see it as a problem. I went out there, you're the owners of both 31 and 35?
No, we own 33 and my parents own 31.
Because if you look at the front of I drove by and look at the front of the property, 31 is on the
Right.
left side of the property, and 33 is on the right side.
It's actually the opposite if you're
Up and
facing.
down.
If you're
Oh, it's just
facing-
the opposite?
Yes.
Oh, well, that takes care of the question I was gonna ask. Okay. I don't have any other comment, it's pretty straightforward. I won't even tell you what the question was gonna be.
Ryan, I saw you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, this looks pretty straightforward, like Sai said, very similar to what we had before, but I would agree it does not look like it makes this change any more detrimental to the neighborhood, so I would be in favor of issuing the special permit as far as I can see.
Andrew or Patrick, do you have anything that we would like to add?
No, this is cool. It's pretty straightforward.
No, thank you.
Okay, I need to open for public comment. Please raise your hand or stand up so we can see. Comments? Seeing none, I'll close. Did anyone see any? It's hard to tell sometimes. Okay, so I'm gonna close the public comment portion of this case. And are there any further comments from the zoning board? Okay, would somebody, I haven't actually commented very much either. I also drove by and kind of tried to see as much as I could around the block, and it does not seem that it is detrimental to the neighborhood, and I would support this petition. So, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Brian. You have the motion for special permit?
I do. Do I just read that paragraph off?
So yes.
Filling in the blanks.
Yes.
All right, bear with me. I'll try my best.
Okay.
So I make a motion for a special permit. I move to grant the petitioner, Michael Weaver, a special permit under sections 7.0, 7.3, and 7.32 of the zoning bylaws to construct a 10.5 foot by 7 foot second story deck on the non-conforming lot at 3133 Village Street in Reading, Mass, as shown on the certified plot plan prepared by Bayside Engineering, it looks like, dated August 17, 21, and certified by Norman Brown, land surveyor.
Thank you. If we could just reference the architectural plans, which is two pages by Bayside Engineering as well.
Yep. And Bayside Engineering as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and then this special permit is subject to the following conditions. The petitioner shall submit to the building inspector a certified plot plan of the proposed construction and proposed foundation plans prior to the issuance of a foundation permit for the work. The petitioner's final construction plans for the new structure shall be submitted to the building inspector along with the as-built foundation plans prior to the issuance of a building permit. and the as-built plans showing the completed construction shall be submitted to the building inspector immediately after work is completed and prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit.
Second,
Thank you.
second the motion.
Was that Alex?
Yep.
Okay, again, so, Cindy,
Yes,
okay, Alex,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Cy,
Yes.
and yes for myself. It's 500. This, motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I'll get you that
Thank you.
decision, and Hillary, I'll just need you to come in sometime next week to sign the plans.
Wonderful, yep, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, our third case of the evening. Case number 22-01, 16 Winter Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing in the Select Board's meeting room at the Reading Town Hall located at 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Massachusetts, and through remote and online measures listed below on Thursday, January 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. on the application of Matthew Digby pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A subsection 9 for a special permit under the Reading zoning bylaw sections 7.0, 7.3, and 7.3.2 to construct a 35-foot by 23-foot rear addition along an existing non-conforming side yard setback, the non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot of the property located at 16 Winter Street, Assessors Map 23, Lot 74 in Reading, Massachusetts. Unless there is an objection, I will dispense with the reading of the abutters list, except to say that the abutters were notified as were the following: the Select Board, the Police Department, the Building Department, the Health Department, Engineering Division, Town Clerk, Fire Department, Conservation Commission, Assessor's Office, CPDC, and members and associate members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, or the Board of Appeals, as well as the planning boards of Wakefield, North Reading, Woburn, Linfield, Stoneham, and Wilmington. Testimony given before this board is taken under oath, so if you think you may want to speak, please stand and raise your hand or unmute. I swear that the testimony given by me before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The response is, I do.
I do.
Petitioner can,
Yes, I believe Matt Digby is remotely participating, and I have.
Yes, I'm right here.
Yep.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I truly appreciate your time. I believe you have copies of the plans and all of the, yes, you do. We're interested in adding additions to the back side of the house. The side in question from the street side is the right side of the property. It's a non-conforming lot existing, and we currently have a non-conforming structure on that lot. We also have a deck out the back that we went through this procedure before about 10 years ago to get the non-conforming a variance, I guess we would call it. And that was approved at the time. The new addition is going to go about 6 feet from the existing deck. And that was it. We weren't making any changes to from the front of the street side to that side of the property. It would be just going straight back along that house line.
Brett, do you have any comments?
Not really, pretty straightforward, just going back on an existing non-conformity, no new non-conformities. That's about it.
well, can I ask a question? I'm not sure if it's for Brett or for the applicant, but I just wanted to clarify. You're going back on the existing non-conformity by about 20 feet, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any comments from the board?
I guess I'll start.
Yes,
I mean, I went and took a look at your property too, and you clearly have a lot of room back there in your backyard, but I just think it's a really large addition, clearly, and it's a substantial extension of the nonconformity, and I think it goes beyond what would be permissible as a special permit, and I don't think that I'd be inclined to support it because of its because it is so significant.
This falls within the guidelines of the property coverage and everything else, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
The guidelines of the what?
Property coverage and everything else?
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about the extent of the extension of the nonconformity, which is significant.
I have a question. What is the max height gonna be? I tried to zoom in on the plan. It's probably just because it was scanned.
The existing height is going to match the existing roof line.
And what is that number?
I believe it's 35 off the top of my head, but that's 29 foot 1, 29 1 inch.
Okay. And just confirming, so the existing structure, including like the front porch, nothing's being done there. It's everything's going off the back.
No, the only thing that's going to be changing from the street side would be visually from the driveway side. And we're staying within the 15-foot setback on the driveway side. There'll be I guess the house at that point would be an L shape. So if you look at it, there'll be a small deck on the driveway side, would be a secondary entrance to the house.
Yeah, I would echo what Cindy said, that this is a is a significant addition. I think the proposed addition is larger than the existing structure there. And as you did note, you do fall within the lot coverage requirements. Just the amount of room there, I guess, I just, ask the question, where is any efforts made to revise this or look at the addition within, or within the allowable setback, meeting all setback requirements? Was that looked at, or was there any issues with doing it?
The way the property was designed, or the addition was designed, was to meet the requirements for the setbacks on the, I guess if we're facing the street side, calling it facing the structure itself, on the left-hand side, we were trying to avoid getting into any sort of setback issues on the driveway side. So that would account for the depth of the house. Essentially, the home at this point is a 3-bedroom, single bath. When it's all said and done, it would be we're adding another bedroom, so it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home at that point. So I understand that it's additional size. We're just trying to accommodate myself and my family.
All right, thank you. That's the only question that I had right now.
Ty, do you have any comments?
Yes, a question to Mr. Digby.
Yes, sir.
Why is it so big?
Well, we are going to be accommodating an office space into that area, so my wife doesn't have to have the stuff in the kitchen. It's a master suite above, a great room in the back. We currently have just the kitchen and the living room / dining room that we exist in. There's no playroom or anything else for the children. When this is our forever home, and what our ultimate goal is that the kids come to us as opposed to going somewhere else. We have somewhere there's 20 kids in the neighborhood that are under 18 right now. And we have a lot of children traffic, and ultimately I'd like to be where I can see them. So having the additional living space doesn't hurt. We feel that it fit the community and the neighborhood. There's a number of larger homes on the street, and we thought that that would be fitting. We also didn't think it would be that obtrusive as we were going straight back and not bothering anybody as far as changing the front of the house too much. Everything again is on, any changes to the house visually from the street occur on the driveway side.
One other question. I noticed when I took a look at the property too, and when I took a look at it, I noticed there's a line of trees to the right of the house.
Yep.
Are they on your property or on your abutter's property?
They seem to be running right down the line.
So you're saying they may be on both lots?
That would be my speculation, yes.
I don't know. I mean, that'd be a
If it's
interesting question.
I would say the average tree trunk size is about 12 inches. My guess is the line of demarcation runs right down the middle. And none of those trees are going to be affected in any way, shape, or form.
So you don't envision that by this new construction that you're not going to be affecting those trees in any way?
No, those trees shouldn't be affected in any way, shape, or form.
Have you had any conversations with your abutters about what you're doing here?
We gave them a copy of plans, both abutters copies of plans, expressed to them they were doing the project. I think they're both here.
Because I think if this was happening next to me as such a big addition, I think I would want to do that. If I was doing it.
That was what the meeting was for.
Okay. At the moment, I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Andrew? Andrew Grassberger, sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have too much to add on top of what other people have asked. But yeah, I guess it is a big addition, but also complying with that setback would also remove a lot of the space from the proposed thing.
Again, just to give you a sense of the size, it's going to be about 5 feet bigger than the existing deck that's there now.
Yeah, then I guess 5 feet off the ground is very different from 29 feet off the ground in terms of size. But yeah, that's good to get kind of scale of it. Yeah, I guess I might just want to touch on the question again of was there any attempt to design around this by making it go further back or something like that? I guess that wouldn't necessarily be a concern, but just having a little bit more setback there might make it a little bit less intrusive.
We're just following the house line down on that side. And again, like I said, the reason why it's going back so deep is because we didn't want to have to try and get into a variance and a special permit on the driveway side. We're 16'2" in. If we wanted to go wider, it would have been an additional special permit plus the variance, or vice versa. Whichever that is, if it's a variance versus a special permit.
I guess I was thinking further back, towards the back of your lot too, but.
Well, I'd still like to be able to hit the old golf ball occasionally and play some soccer back there.
Sure. Yeah, that's all I had.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have any notes, comments?
No, I don't. I guess I have no comments on this one.
Okay, thank you. Patrick?
Just one quick question. Would you be interested in reducing the addition, maybe on the Decker side? It sort of looks like maybe you could shorten that side. I don't know how much that interferes with your plan.
The width of the addition here, when you come into that, or any side, I guess, you have about a 10-foot deep mudroom and then a 10-foot deep office, and then we ran out of space. So in order to make either one of those two rooms at all usable, that's where we came up with the depth for it.
So you'd almost be sacrificing one of those rooms, is what you're.
100%.
And I actually do have one other question, so I just wasn't following you as much, so part of the reason why you wanna do this is to, you know, accommodate the kids in the neighborhood as well, is that having those kids over, or, I know you mentioned keeping an eye on sort of.
Yeah, we get 2 little girls there. We have, it's like I said, there's about 18 kids in the neighborhood. Right now, we do a lot of stuff on the playground in the back, and there's 6 months out of the year, it's crappy weather around here. It'd be nice to be able to have them inside the house, watching movies, hanging out there. Or here.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So I echo some of the concerns that the rest of the board has. I know with things such as they are, and not a lot of availability of housing, especially of the size and the type that is desirable or being priced out, that additions are, you know, required. And I appreciate the work that you guys have done to go in and, you know, prepare these plans to this extent and, you know, think about your, the way you guys are gonna live, and you've come to this conclusion. My concern is the north or right side elevation. That is slightly unrelenting. It is a very big wall for your neighbors, where there once was, you know, some variation and deck. So that is my main concern, is that you're going from, you know, something that was, you know, had a lot of visual openness to something that is just like a very big wall. I would like to see that somehow be a little bit more scaled down and.
In other words, what would be acceptable? Moving it in a foot, moving it in 2 feet, moving it in 10 feet? It seems that would be the whole point of the lot coverage laws, as long as we were within those boundaries, that we could design it ourselves. If you're on that side, that we put in a number of pictures, I don't know if you guys got the package of the photographs of the yard itself.
Yes.
I mean, the plane of the house would be the plane of the house. If you look on that side, there's an addition there on the Decker side. There's no windows there. The only window that's there looks to either be a bathroom or a laundry room. That's covered by a tree.
Right, and I was going to say that your neighbors to the north also have a very similar flat, you know, kind of very, you know, pretty substantial wall, and same thing, neighbors to your south also have quite a large house. So I'm a little divided into if this is in keeping with the neighborhood and, you know, how this is, you know, we are in a reality where we're no longer going to the office, and who knows how long that's going to be, and our lives have changed drastically. So I'm still, you know, trying to understand.
To put it in perspective, I guess we purchased the house for $250,000. We now have homes on the street that are worth $1.2 million.
Oh,
So
I mean,
we're certainly going upward in the right direction, I guess. Or
yeah.
Property values increasing. We felt it fit the neighborhood. That's why we brought the architect in to look at that and give us a design predicated on what he saw.
Mm-hmm. So, those are my comments for now, but I would like also to see, you know, what, if there are any, I know we have a note from one of your neighbors. So, Andrew, do I read this into the record, or?
Um,
Was I meant to?
I think that person is here too.
Yes, they are. So if you would want to open to public comment, I think they could speak to
Okay.
it if they wish.
Okay, I will open this to public comment. Okay, I see Robin Decker has opened. Sorry.
It's my wife's computer.
Okay, Mr. Decker has raised his hand.
I'm David Decker. I live at 18 Winter Street. We're the immediate abutters to 16 Winter Street. And I sent you that email before I had the plans. We didn't find out about this until the day before these notices came out, so this was all news to us. And I made some general comments, and I wanted to just sort of expand on that a little bit. This is a big addition. It's bigger than the existing house. And, you know, your coverage has gone up more than 100%. It's 11 and now it's up close to 23%. I'm really concerned about the setback on the right side. Because some of the things I mentioned, it'll really hurt our property value. Because you look at this elevation, the north elevation on that side, it's a 3-story building. And it's gonna be like you're living next to the Grand Canyon, because it's only gonna be about 8 feet away from our property line. Because I've got a certified plot plan from when we did our addition, which they made us move back 8 inches. Our existing house is 13.8 from the property line. So that would mean it would only be like 20 feet from our house, this big facade in there. And again, it's you also got to remember it's tall and it's got an incredibly increased roof area, which means we're going to get a lot more rain and snow runoff. Okay, that close to our yard. We're going to lose a lot of sunlight in the view because now there's the deck there, and they're going to extend it beyond the deck, and you can have 3 stories of building there. It's hard to grow grass in that area as it is, and now it'll be almost impossible. And it's also now that area between the houses is like a wind tunnel. The snowdrifts build up on both sides, and that's just going to exacerbate that condition. Certainly a loss of privacy. They'll have a ton of windows. We only have one, but we also like to sit in our yard too. One of the things that really concerns me is the excavation for the foundation and also those bench footings that they want to do, because those trees are on my property. I know because we've measured it a number of times before. As the lot fades back, when you get closer to the far end, the rear side of it, it becomes down the middle. But in the area of the addition, they are on our property. And you excavate right there that close, you're going to compromise the root structure. You got to get down 5-6 feet in order to make the foundation. So it's really, to me, it seems like if you've got a non-conforming lot and a non-conforming building, that doesn't mean you get to make it even more non-conforming. You should be careful to follow the setbacks. And there's plenty of room to get that much area. It just has to be in a different shape. Good setbacks make good neighbors. And I think the last thing I'll say is that there's no hardship here. Like the other cases we were talking about, there's no hardship. It's just a wish list. It's a nice plan, but it's just, it's in the wrong spot and it's a little too big as far as I'm concerned. So those are serious concerns that we have. We're friends and neighbors with the Digby's. It's an awkward situation. You hate to say something, about, we see each other all the time, but it's going to be a permanent thing. So that's my concern. I hope they can come up with something that's suitable for them, but it just follows the setback, that it should be at 15 feet.
Sure, I'd just like to follow up on that. We've already dug down there good 7 feet to do the footings in the deck. That area has already been excavated once. My father is an engineer, so I
remember.
I guess reviewed to say that the deck is probably holding up some of the structure as opposed to vice versa. So that area's been excavated once without incident towards those trees. I understand Dave's concern, I understand everyone's concern here, but it seems like we're within the conformity or the coverage of the lot, and in everyone's opinion, it's too big from the back. I don't know whose opinion we have to subscribe to decide how much room we can get. If we do try and push the structure back, left, right, a set of it back, if you look at the interior plan, the house really comes up to a second floor and then walks to the back. If you tried to slide the addition to the back, you'd be walking through a maze in the house. There would be really no way to access the back bedrooms. It would become some sort of a turning, like I said, maze to get to the back. I would think at that point, God forbid, there would be an issue. There could be some safety hazards where you're trying to get out of a house where there's a number of turns in the hallway. This is a straight shot down to the front stairs. And like I said, when we designed it, we tried to be as unobtrusive as possible from the street side. I didn't think that being on the Dave's side there with this lack of windows, and we would be bothering anyone that much. Like I said, the trees, we dug in that area before, full excavation. There's a 10-foot, or I think there's a 20-foot bench footing in the ground as we speak that is holding up the deck. So that's been excavated, poured, redone. Matter of fact, there's an existing dry well underneath the far corner of the deck that we discovered when we were digging the deck. How far down that structure goes or what it was out of, I would assume probably has something to do with the land in the late 1800s. Either an old dry well or an old waste sump of some kind. But like I said, we're just trying to have some room to live here, and we're currently 1,400 square feet. I understand the house is getting bigger. We feel it fits the houses on the street. I understand that there's a wall there. We tried to design it as articulately as possible. A couple windows, breaking things up. There's a small shed roof there, so when you do look down the side, you don't get the sense that there's a massive depth there. The small shed roof breaks up things visually from the street. So we've done our best to incorporate an architect that took into consideration the neighborhood, and this is what we came up with. I guess if it made a world of difference, we could shorten it a foot or two, but I don't know at what point shortening the structure becomes amicable to everybody. And Dave talked about his resale value. He clearly doesn't plan on staying. So are we just splitting hairs here or what? I don't know.
Can I respond to that?
Sure. Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we also had a dry well we discovered when we were doing it. But the excavation that's over there, it's only footings for a deck. It wasn't like a great big hole in the ground. And you know, don't forget, when they go to put those bench footings in, they're gonna have to excavate to able to access those too. But that's just one, that's just one element of the whole thing. Again, there's no hardship. There's no need. It's, someone who's a good designer to come up with something that meets the setback, gives them the use and room that they want. They just would have to go back a little further. But there's really no, to me, any reason that they should get to put it closer than the 15-foot setback. And well,
15-foot setback makes the kitchen 2 feet wide.
Makes what? I'm sorry.
You take the 15 feet, take 6 feet off the house, then our kitchen is constituted, becomes 4 feet wide.
Well, as someone who designs kitchens for a living, I'm sure that you could find something that would work in that space. And I look at plans all day long. And I see this, and I know what these things are going to actually be like. So, it's just, they need to move back. Just needs to move
If they move
back.
the structure back 15 feet, the plane of the building doesn't change visually. In other words.
But I'm not worried about what it looks like from the front. I'm not worried about what it looks like from the front. It's only.
If you look at this from the north elevation, from the side elevation, if you push that back 15 feet, it still gives that plane of the length of the building. If you could push it in 30 feet across the yard, you're still looking at it, the length of the building.
So we're here to talk about, you know, the things that we have to make a finding on this. And, you know, I think Mr. Decker has stated his point, and as well as Mr. Digby. I want to point out that 7.3.2 states that for the alterations of a single, two-family, or two-family dwelling not eligible for a building permit pursuant to section 7.3, the zoning board of appeals may grant a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or structurally change a non-conforming building or structure upon the finding that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or structural change shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming building or structure. I just want to point that out. I want, thank you, Mr. Decker. I was wondering if there's anybody else on the call that has any comments. I see Mike and Mike Sorty and Henry and Annette. So Mike, will you, and your wife, I think, or partner.
My name's Mike Story. I live at 8 Winter Street, one house down from the Digby's. As far as why they want to put an addition on, I mean, I can speak to the fact that I have 4 girls that spend a lot of time at their house. I enjoy the Digby's as neighbors. I love their little girls, spending time with my little girls. We try to get them together as much as possible, and I just love I love the Digby's, and I would hate to see them not get the space they need, and I fear that they would leave the street. I think they're the heart and soul of the street, and I would be devastated if they had to choose to go somewhere else to get the room they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry and Annette?
Yes. We are neighbors also across the street. And are you hearing us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. As far as the need, the girls are pre-teens. When they were little girls and could share a bedroom, the house was fine. But you're looking at 2 girls that are going to be reaching teenage, and we're parents of kids that went through this, so we have experience with how much room teenagers require. It's not a dream. It's a need.
It is a need. The living room is small. Their dining room right now is, filled with toys, but there's no place for kids to really play. Like, they don't have a separate area to watch TV, and the parents could be someplace else. And same as what Mike said, they have really, the Digby's are the heart and soul of this neighborhood. They have great neighbors, and they really need it. And I think that this would just increase the property's values of the neighborhood, this beautiful addition. They put a lot of thought into how it would be. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Once you've spoken, you can take your hand down. Thank you. Cliff? I see your hand up. You're muted. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I had to figure out how to unmute it. This is the first time here. I'm directly across the street, almost directly, diagonally across the street from the Digby's.
What's your address, sir?
19 Winter Street. I'm right across from Dave, in fact.
Okay. Okay. And I'm sorry, there was a couple that just spoke, Harry and Annette. What number were they, for the record?
They're directly across the street.
13 Winter Street.
13. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as far as the addition goes, I'm diagonally across the street. I see the side of the house, and what they're proposing doesn't bother me in the least a little bit. In fact, I think it's great for the neighborhood, and I'll even go so far as to say that, along with everyone else, they're great neighbors. I'd hate to see them leave because of, needing more space and not being able to get it here. So I don't want to keep too much of your time, so that's really all I have to say. I think that it won't be a problem for me at all, so. And I've been here 35 years, in fact. So, a long-time resident.
Thank you.
Got a great neighborhood. I mean, everyone in the neighborhood is great. I hate to see them have to leave. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. McLeod? Matthew?
I'm about 12 Winter Street, so extended to the south side neighborhood. I guess if you go back to the plot plan, like it seems as though the proposal would be, okay, you're saying chase off of, and you can't see my mouse, but off of the line that's on the right-hand side back towards the dashed line to meet the setback. But in order to do that, what you're going to want to do, to get the same amount of area then is you're going to run further back along that 15 feet, create more shade along that side. I mean, fundamentally, yes, it's closer on the one side, but you're going to be running further back in that direction to make up the area and perhaps a little bit for the fact of additional area to remain within the 25% and make up for the fact that it's so narrow. So, I guess the question I would ask is just, are we chasing toward the best outcome, or are we chasing toward letter of compliance?
And you said you're a butter?
Yeah, my name is on the left-hand side of the.
I see. Okay. Yes, I see. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Oh, yes, Mr. Decker?
Let me unmute here, sorry. With all due respect to the other neighbors, Cliff, Harry, Sorties, Matthew, they don't live where we live. The people across the street, they're really not affected by whatever the Digby's do. And I didn't realize that, how many kids you had affected the zoning, rules. But it would, when you get a 3-story building, whether it's different if it's set back another 6-8 feet on in the afternoon when the sun is high. Yeah, it does make a difference. And again, we're the ones that are affected by it, the most. On Matthew's side, it's 15-foot setback, so there's really nothing he could say if he did have a problem. So there's plenty of ways to get plenty of room and get the usage that you want with your teenage girls. I've been in so many homes in my job. I've seen everything, all kinds of designs, and a lot of good ones that work. This isn't the only way you can do it, right? And I think that like I said, there's no hardship. You want it, it would be nice, but we have rules, and I think that you should not grant this special permit and ask them to go back to the drawing board and come up with something that sits on the setback on the side yard. I'm sure they can come up with something great. There's a lot of good designers that the plans that they got look pretty good, but anyway, so that's my feeling on that.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Is there anyone at the town hall, Andrew?
There is not, just Alex and I.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment portion and take comments from the board. Do I have any volunteers, or do you want me to call any? Yes, Si?
The only comment I would make is that it is big, but this piece of property is a grandfathered piece of property, small in size, like hundreds of others in our town already. And when people want to try to expand, and we've seen many of those, it's hard to do it without much space to do it. And although having said that, this is the biggest addition I think I've seen in a long time. I don't know whether it can, well, it obviously could be reduced, it's not. But in terms of not creating any new nonconformity and living within the existing nonconformities, just extending them, technically I would not have a problem with that. Frankly, I think it would probably, to some of the comments that have been said, would probably increase the values of the neighborhood. But I am uncomfortable with its size. But that probably would not stop me from thinking positive about it.
Thank you.
I recognize that, you know, the need for this family to have extra space, and I recognize and appreciate the support of a lot of neighbors who it sounds like would also benefit from these people having extra space because their kids spend a lot of time there. Our standard, Mr. Decker, you kept bringing up hardship or you know, that's not our standard for this request. A special permit, the standard is that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity. And to my mind, it is more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity, because it extends the existing nonconformity so substantially. I do think that there isn't anything other than some need for creativity that would prevent the homeowners from getting something very close, if not identical, to the same design that they have, laid out a different way and taking advantage of the ample space they have within their rear setback to go into. There's plenty of space there. I realize you want to use your backyard for other things too, and I recognize that, and you know, that's fine. But again, I just think that the trade-off of instead you know, substantially extending the nonconformity rather than going into the rear setback, or rather than reducing the size. And you know, I understand you want what you want, but you might have to make some changes. To my mind, it's too substantial of an extension of the nonconformity. It is detrimental to the neighborhood, regardless of the support of many of the neighbors, and I would not support this.
Ryan, do you have any comments?
No, I really don't. I mean, I appreciate everybody's thoughts. I think everything makes sense that everybody's saying, and I would agree with Cy and Cindy. Likely, I think nobody wants to go back to the drawing board. Takes more work, probably costs more money, but I do think it probably could be modified in a way that more adheres to a workable plan, which is probably not what Mr. Digby wants to hear, but I think that's probably the route that seems like the consensus is here.
Andrew Grassberger, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think I mostly agree. I think that, at least in my opinion, I think that I do see the possibility of special permit here. Like I don't, at least in my opinion, I don't think you have to go and totally go all the way back to the conforming setback. I think that maybe a middle ground might be beneficial to kind of just break up the solidity of that wall, and also just allow a little bit more of a setback. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Alex.
Thanks, Hillary. And thanks for everyone for you know, speaking up. And it's not often we get a lot of people participating. So I understand everyone's thoughts, and Mr. Digby, your point regarding the straightness of the hallway on your second floor is well taken. I think that's a good point. But bottom line for me is we have the setback requirements that we have to abide by, and 20-foot by 29 feet tall is too much of an extension to support as is, and I would make a request to kind of see what can be done to extend back and meet the requirements.
Thanks, good question.
Yes.
Everyone seems to have a consensus here that the structure as proposed is too big. And there seems to be a lot of, geez, perhaps if it was a hair small, what is that parameter? In other words, what becomes an acceptable length? What becomes an acceptable depth? Is this just speculation, or is there a bylaw predicated on that? And like I said, when we start to shorten the structure, do we just shorten it and continue with these meetings until we come up with one that appeases the board? Or is there a number to be chosen? Is there a recommendation that we can look at? Is it 2 feet too long? Is it 20 feet too long? Is it 10 feet too long? And if that's the case, one of the other board members mentioned to follow the existing setbacks. You're talking about 15 feet. The kitchen's in that portion. Again, that makes the kitchen about 4 feet wide. And my question is, when you look at the plane, whether it be setback 15 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, 1 foot, the plane of that wall, the length of that building, is going to be visually, if you're looking at it, a flat plane. You're not going to be able to tell whether there's a setback there or not. The only time you're going to be able to take and see if there's a setback is when you walk into the home and have to take a hard left to get into the back of the building. And then, again, there seems to be a significantly differentiating opinion about how far back the structure can go. That's the part that I'm a little miffed about, and I understand that we all have our opinions, and ultimately you guys have the final say. I just, if we're going to make alterations, I don't know what to tell the architect. 2/3 of the board doesn't seem to like it. Can you come up with a theory that gives us how far back? No one seems to be able to give us that number. You're just telling me it's going too far back.
I guess I have a question, because again, I wouldn't be able to, I'd have to just measure it off the plans here, but your existing kitchen, the back of that, how does that align with where the start of the addition is? I guess what I'm getting at is the
If you look at that existing little bump out there at the end of that, that's the tail end of the kitchen as it is constituted right now. If you look at existing structure, there's a small little bump out across the back of the foundation. It's an additional, right where your mouse is. That's the kitchen right there.
Yep.
So if you shorten that 15 feet, or excuse me, 6 feet, that becomes a 3-foot hallway.
But that's your existing structure.
That's your existing.
That's existing. We're not asking you to change what's existing.
Right, but that's going to be part of the new structure coming through. So that would become a pinch point there.
I guess I see a pretty substantial opening between the kitchen and the great room. So I guess that's what I'm trying to rectify is, where does your proposed kitchen, where's your existing structure end? Because like Cindy said, we're not looking to...
The existing structure would be that perfectly square foundation, and then there's that little bump out on the end, which is not a true foundation. It's
Right,
some
but you
sort of
already
19
have that kitchen, so you would be replacing that kitchen.
Correct.
Yeah.
But towards the end of that now becomes a small hallway to the back. So my question is, how far back or how far in do we propose? One gentleman proposed a couple feet. The board seems to be proposing that it goes too far back, but no one seems to be saying to me how far back we can go. I was under the inference that, assuming that we were staying within the coverage lots, because we're a non-conforming lot, we would be able to carry that non-conforming structure back. We're being told that that's too much of a detriment. At what point does the detriment end? Is it 5 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 1 foot? I don't know.
Well, Mr. Digby, speaking
Yes,
for
ma'am.
myself anyway, there isn't a hard line rule. We're not gonna tell you we'd allow 2 feet, we wouldn't allow 4 feet or whatever it is, because it's a case by case basis. My own feelings about it is that, if there were a reason why it cannot be designed to not need a special permit, then I would like to know why.
We're trying to keep
And that's what would cause me to consider a less substantial extension of the nonconformity. But it does not. I'm just looking at it and I think that I understand regarding the kitchen and whatever. And again, I realize that you're trying to design and had your architect design exactly what it is that you want. But to me, that was done without any consideration for what to me is an unacceptable extension of the nonconformity. So if there's a way
I don't see where you're defining acceptable, and I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just suggesting that if I have to go back to the architect and redo the plans, I can't say to him, someone has a theory that it's not acceptable, and they didn't give me some sort of parameter to shorten it. If you look at the second floor as well, again, when you're walking through the interior of the house, if you set that back in the 6 or 8 feet, you have a maze inside the house. If it's a matter of that we can only go back, I'm sorry, if we have 20 feet, 20 feet and a half foot for the sake of argument, if you're telling me that 18 feet is more acceptable, I could certainly make that recommendation to the architect. But what you're telling me is that you don't find it acceptable, but we don't seem to have a parameter to base the redesign on. So, like currently the deck is, I'm sorry, I don't have a dimension there on the deck naturally. Where for the sake of argument, and I'm going to speculate with these numbers, and I apologize, I don't have them in front of me. I didn't think to bring them or measure this out. But for the sake of argument, we're going 4 feet beyond the existing deck. If you're telling me I can only go to the existing deck, or at least setting some sort of a parameter, I at least have something to go to the architect and say, listen, can you give me a redesign, even if I'm losing square footage, predicated on shortening the structure 3 feet. What you're telling me right now is that you think it's detrimental, but we're really not setting any sort of parameters that I can go back to an architect and explain to him, geez, this is what the board feels. Can we make an alteration based on that recommendation? You're just telling me, in your opinion, you feel it's too detrimental. I don't know what the
question, does the existing deck, that doesn't go all the way over to the right side of your house, does it?
It steps in the width of a railing.
Yeah, so that.
We've been through this permit, we had the permit before to do this.
Okay, I'm looking at the drawing and trying to visualize
Yeah,
it.
the deck is right to the edge of the house.
It's right to the edge of the house, okay.
Yep.
And it, to me, it's a combination of not just the length or the how far back it goes, but the height. If you were proposing a 1-story addition on the same footprint that you're proposing, I would have less of an issue with it. That's the.
So you're not saying that the structure is going too far back, you're telling me that it's going too tall.
I'm saying the what you are proposing in combination of length and height, considering where the existing nonconformity is now, is too much for me. And I'm sorry I can't give you a better idea.
No, and I'm just trying, again, I'm just trying to, so I either have to take 2 stories off the structure or shorten it to what you perceive as less detrimental. So we either don't get a second floor, because again, we're just trying to match the roof line. So we're following that A roof back. So you're telling me that you wouldn't have any problem with it if it was a single-story structure and we lose all the sleeping quarters on the second floor?
That's not what she's saying.
I'm not telling you that because I would need to see that proposal in order to assess it on its merits. But I'm trying to give you an idea of the sorts of things I'm looking at here.
Well,
And
if anyone could give me any inkling of what to tell the architect, so I at least have some sense of what I can ask him to redesign. His time is not free, so I'd like to at least get it right the second time if we can't move forward. So how much further back do you want to step the structure in?
No, just add over here.
I'll volunteer my opinion. If you need a number, I would like to see a proposal that meets the setbacks. You know,
So you want the,
in which case we wouldn't need to see the
and then we
proposal
wouldn't,
because
exactly. If you need a number and we, you know, that's not what we're here to provide to you. We can't give that number. As Cindy said, it's a combination of things, and it's, you know, if you need to hear something for your architect, then the setback.
okay, so then the height, so then you're proposing to make the structure significantly longer, but meet the side setback?
I'm not the one
if you did
proposing
that, you wouldn't
anything.
need to come to us.
Yep.
If you were within the setbacks, you would not need to come to us.
Well, here's a question, I guess, and again, I'm just trying to garner some information. If we've been approved for the deck in the past, does that become at least some semblance of a starting point to where I can get an addition? Because now I'm being told that I can't have any sort of setback there.
Well, Mr. Digby, no, that's not what I said. You're asking us for a number, and we cannot give you the number that you are looking for. So.
Yes, we are not designing this here. We are, you know, weighing if this is substantially detrimental to your neighborhood. And what we're hearing from the board is that the voting members find this as detrimental. So, you know, I personally am a designer. I could tell you a bunch of things to do, but that's not my job at this point. You know, the point is that you're a designer and you as a team need to work together to come up with how this can either be more palatable to our team and, you know, work with what you guys, your family and wants and needs. But rebuilding a deck as a two-story structure is, you know, a big change to your house. But you can, you know, that is a major change is what I'm hearing from my team members or, you know, board members. Am I speaking out of turn, Cindy and Alex?
No,
Nope.
you're not.
No, you're not.
And that's why you're here in front of the board is because, you know, you did have an exterior deck that isn't a structure with a roof. And the new proposal is taking a one-story deck and turning it into a two-story house. So.
2.5 really, with the attic.
Yes. So
if I go in the 6 feet, I don't even need to come back to the board.
If you're within the side and the rear setbacks, you do not require a special permit.
And lot coverage.
And lot coverage and everything else.
Okay, is there can anybody foresee and again, I'm not asking you to redesign it, I'm not looking for architectural advice for free. For the sake of argument, it looks like there's 6 feet there to play with. Excuse me, so it's 8'9" plus or minus, let's call it 8.5 feet off the property line. So I have 6 feet to play with there.
8'9" is much closer to 9 feet than 8.5 feet. So just so you know.
right now you're 9 feet off the property line, and to get within the setback, you need to be 15 feet off the property line.
So you
So I
have,
have 6 feet to play with, correct?
that's what it looks like to us from
Is
this.
there an acceptable number there in the middle? In other words, if I step the addition into the side 3 feet, do you think that that would be something that we could foresee as possibly being acceptable?
Yes, Si?
You know, we're having too much discussion about how to redesign this thing, and Hillary, you said it right. We're not in the business of telling people how to design additions to their homes. That's their prerogative, because they know what their needs are, and they're the ones that can best define that. We're here to look at what was done and prepared and make a decision as to whether we think it can be approved per the criteria of the zoning laws. So giving this gentleman guidance about how to redesign it is not our turf. And I don't think we should be doing that, because I can't sit here and tell this gentleman what is acceptable to this board.
Well, do you think that the
What we're
board,
really telling this gentleman, suggesting to him, is go back and relook at your plan and see if there's any way you can reduce it that would be acceptable to you. And then go back with that.
if we step the addition in 3 feet, bringing it back to the board?
Mr. Digby, I don't think we can answer that question, and I don't think we're going to answer that question. I'm sorry. I understand why you wanted an answer to it, but we just can't.
I'm just trying to get a sense of, again, I understand what you guys are saying. Do you think it would be, I'll just ask you one more time, do you think it would be worth bringing it back to the board if I stepped that structure in 3 feet?
It would depend on what the design changes are and how it, how it affects, but I think you have enough comments from the board, and your architect can watch the recording and get, information from our comments if you have, and you guys can make a decision on how you want to move forward and how you and your architect can create a space that is acceptable, as Sai said, to you and your family. We're not saying no, but we're not saying yes. I'm sorry, we have to see that and weigh it on its own merits.
I always suggest, go ahead.
So, what were you gonna say, Sai, please?
My only suggestion would be is take a look at the design and see what is the minimal addition that fits your fundamental basic need. Okay, not what you want, but what you really need to take care of your family's expansion and growth. And I don't know what that is. Only you can answer that one, not me. And then that would be looked at. I go back to what I earlier commented said, that these properties, when the size of these grandfathered lots, when people want to expand them, they don't have a lot of room. And they don't have much play in terms of how to do what they want to do. And I'm sympathetic to Mr. Digby, I really am. I know it's a big addition, but I'm probably the only one on the board that probably wouldn't have a problem going along with this. But I can understand everyone else's concern. So the suggestion I would have is go back and look at what is the very basic minimum addition that would fit what you can live with, but anything less than that, you can't.
Right, and, so like Sai is saying is like, we can't make those decisions for you. So based on what you're hearing, you have a couple of options. First, you can ask for a vote, and I think you know how that's gonna play out. Based on the comments, you can continue and come back with an updated plan, or you can withdraw and, come back to the building department with another plan at a later date that fits within the, how you want the building to be. So is that correct, Andrew? Those are his 3 options at
Correct.
this point in time.
Yep.
So,
Question for Andrew.
Yep.
If the board were to vote and turn this down, there's a timeline in which he can come back.
So you would not be able to bring a substantially similar plan within the next 2 years.
Remember, for 2 more years, we voted no, he couldn't come back for 2 more years. So keep that in mind.
So I get my best option would be to continue.
Okay.
It's some semblance of a design that
So-
doesn't go along the existing structure.
So to continue it, we have to pick a date. So, and I know as, as I am an architect myself, 2 weeks is going to be kind of a short turnaround. But our next meeting is on January 20th. And how many, cases do we have on that night?
I believe I have I think I have 1 case, 1 to 2 cases that I'm looking to schedule for that, perhaps
So you
3.
could come back on the 20th, or the date after that would be February 3rd. So that is up to you, Mr. Digby.
I don't think I can make a 2-week turnaround. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, it would
I would agree with you. And if the 4-week turnaround is not doable with you and your architect, you can always email Andrew and we can, move it to a different date.
Okay, I got one other question, I guess, about procedure. If we do go to the sake of argument, the February 3rd date, do I have to redo the newspaper ad, the butters and everything else, or is that, are we notifying everyone via this meeting?
There is no new mailing or legal ad print required for the continuance.
Okay, so in other words, we say continuance for tonight, we're assuming that everybody in the meeting is aware of that moving forward.
Correct.
And if we have a full board, so, should somebody be absent, we would not have an issue with that.
Right.
So,
Okay, I'll make some phone calls to the architect. I appreciate your candor. Like I
and
said,
so, to be clear, we are continuing this to date certain of February 3rd
At 7
Right.
p.m.
at 7 p.m. Yes.
Let's make a motion.
Yep, we do need a motion.
I'll make that motion for continuance. I move to continue case 22
Let's make sure it's okay with Mr. Digby. Just
Okay.
yeah, as long as I'm not missing anything, I think that we're gonna reconvene in 4 weeks. I'm gonna call my architect and light a fire and, we can see if we can make that deadline. And if I can't on my end, the onus is on me to notify the board and push it off further than February 3rd.
Yes. I will let you know if the meeting date is February 3rd. I will need the plans by at minimum January 24th so that we can review and share with the board at least a week plus in advance.
Okay, I think that that's fair. I appreciate the information and the insight, and I'll make some phone calls and see what we can adjust.
okay. And now, Alex, you can make your motion.
All right. Sorry for jumping. Good start there. Move to continue case number 22-01 on the request of the petitioner without prejudice until the regularly scheduled meeting of the board on February 3rd, 2022.
Second.
And so voting on that will be, hang on, I gotta get my list of people up in just a second. Wrong one. Will be Cindy, Alex, Ryan, Cy, and myself. So Cindy says yes.
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 Ryan says yes. Alex.
Yes.
Yes. Cy.
Yes.
And I say yes myself. So 5-0, this is continued until February 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much for everybody's time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is minutes, but I didn't get any to
Lucky
review.
for you, I do not have them done. Apologies. I will have
Just
them
following,
next.
making sure we're hitting everything on the agenda.
Yep.
So, okay, so, any other news? Any other things we need to discuss?
I do not have any major updates for you guys, so I am good.
Okay, so somebody can make a motion for our evening.
I move to adjourn,
Thank you.
as nobody else did.
Anyone second that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you
Happy
guys.
New Year. It was great to see everybody
Happy New Year.
virtually.
Have a good one.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
And,
Thank you.
and
Yep.
Andrew, please email me. I can come by maybe, what time does town hall open?
I am here 7 a.m. bright and early.
So I can come anytime after